Hey YouTube, this is Classic Nintendo Show here. This is my first review that I consider to be very high quality. You may notice that the camera is very good. Well, that's because my brother very reluctantly let me use his Canon T2i to record this. So that's why it looks freaking amazing. And if you don't want to hear this update, just skip to this the time that I put in the video about right there. Sorry for my blurry hands. Yeah, I just wanted to be a little more professional. Kind of like Classic Game Room. You can see the setup looks a lot like theirs. I'm trying to imitate it. Yeah, I guess let's just get started. So right here I have my Nintendo 64. This console was released in 1996. I'm not sure if it was released any earlier outside of the US, but that's when it was released in the US. And it launched with only 2 games, and I can only recall what one of them was right now. And that was Super Mario 64. Let's bring that closer. Super Mario 64. Now this was definitely, even though it had 2 launch titles, this was enough because it was probably the best, one of the best at least, games on the entire system, and this one's definitely a keeper. So yeah, let's focus back on the system. And this console had a very large variety of games. You have your average everyday games, platformer games like Super Mario 64 and other games of that nature. And then you have different games like racing games, like, let's see, focus it again. Sorry, I'm kind of an amateur at this. Wave Race 64 is one of the racing games that they have for it. They had Top Gear Rally, which was another great racing game. And I have another example here. Star Wars Racer. Very hard and frustrating but good game. You gotta have challenge in games. And flying games like Rogue Squadron. And they even had a few games geared toward more older audiences like GoldenEye. This game is widely considered to be one of the best, at least first-person shooters of all time. And it's definitely worthy of that title. Definitely a nice, solid game. Definitely worth picking up if you're going to get one of those. So now that I've showcased a couple of the games, let's put GoldenEye in there just because it's that awesome. And I guess we can just get started with the overview of the console now. So right off the front, you have your reset button and your power switch. And you have 4 controller ports. Definitely nice to have 4 controller ports. And it has an LED that will light up there. And your little Nintendo 64 logo there. And then you have the little feet on the side that it wouldn't look the same without. And you also have a lot of ventilation on the system. Let's see if we can get a close-up here. There we go. Lots and lots of ventilation on this console. And trust me, you need it because when you're playing GoldenEye, this thing gets really heated up. And then you may have noticed this. This is a little cover. You take that off, and in there is this red thing. I'm gonna set it back down real quick. Now that red thing is the expansion pack for this system. There was a jumper pack. In fact, if I can get this out of here, I'll go get that jumper pack for you, just so you can see what it looks like. So first I'm going to show you the expansion pack. Sorry for the focusing difficulties. Yeah, this is the expansion pack. It'll make some games have better graphics or better resolution. Like the Star Wars games that I have, the Star Wars Racer and Star Wars Rogue Squadron, those two again are enhanced by the expansion pack, and some of them actually need this thing in order to be played. Like Donkey Kong 64 actually can't be played without one of these, because what this does is it increases the RAM of the Nintendo 64, and it wouldn't have been able to have. It didn't have enough memory for Donkey Kong 64 alone, so it had to have one of these. So that's it for that, and I'm going to go get the jumper pack now. Once I set this down. Be right back. Okay, so this is the jumper pack. Really nice little thing, and it's basically just your average thing. These are definitely more common than the expansion packs, and if you get one of those N64s, oh sorry, just bumped the tripod there. If you get one of the N64 consoles, you're definitely going to want to invest in an expansion pack instead of this. And make sure you get an N64 with at least this, because it actually won't work without a jumper pack. Again, here's the difference between the two. Definitely invest in one of these. They're only about 15 bucks, so definitely worth it. So I'm just gonna put the thing back in there again. There we go. And I forgot to focus it. There we go. Now I'm gonna just overview the rest of the console. Got a little sidetracked there. So this is the back of the console here. You get your phone number for calling Nintendo if you need help. And you shouldn't need help installing this thing because it's really easy to hook up. You have your AV multi-out. This thing only outputs AV, and you can get an RF switch that'll plug into this port. But the best quality, I believe, that you can get out of this is S-Video. And then over here, this is the docking bay for the AC adapter. The cool thing about this is that it's basically an outboard power supply that you plug right into the back of the system instead of having a box that you plug into the wall like on the Genesis, or a brick like on the PlayStation 2 or GameCube. So that's definitely one of my favorite designs for that. And let's see, that's it except for down here. Let's take this cover off. This console has a lot of surprises. So, this is for a very rare Nintendo 64 DD disk drive add-on that was never released here in the States. And let me focus it real quick. Basically, the Nintendo 64 DD would sit below your N64, so it would be right here. And you could play disc games on it, but they weren't CDs. They were like really hard floppy disks. Like that, they weren't floppy. And one of those, for the average game player, definitely don't get that because it sucks, and well, most of the games on it suck, and it's $1,600 on average on eBay. Really, definitely not worth it. Unless you're a collector, then it's obviously worth it. Oh yeah, that thing's really reflective. You can see my lamp down there. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the console. Let's get 007 out of there for a sec. As much as I hate to do it. And, oh yeah, by the way, this is a cartridge-based 64-bit console, which is weird. Normally you wouldn't have 64 bits in cartridges unless you consider the Jaguar, Atari Jaguar, a cartridge, of course it's a cartridge-based system. Unless you consider the Jaguar a 64-bit system, then this is the only 64-bit cartridge-based system that I know of. Now, one thing we didn't cover so far is right over there, the controller, of course. And if you've never seen one of these before, you're weird. Just kidding. But these things are definitely weird looking with the 3 prongs. Excuse me, I'm getting over a bit of a cold here. And then you have your B and A buttons, your start button, and your D-pad. And that's pretty much up to that point was standard for every Nintendo console, but they added a few new buttons other than L and R, of course, or on the Super Nintendo. You have your C buttons over here, which is kind of like the second analog stick on today's controllers, like the Xbox 360's controller, but a very primitive version of it. Can we get a better focus here? Come on. Alright, there we go. So basically in Mario 64, for example, you would use the buttons to aim the camera around, and then this would zoom out and this would zoom in. So it's pretty much like today's cameras. And then, what surprised everyone right from the beginning is not only the 3 prongs, but what came before this was with the Vectrex in 1982, and with the Atari 5200 in, I forget what year that was, but I think it was 1982, but they both had analog sticks, but the N64 pretty much almost perfected it. Sony was the one who perfected it with their DualShock controller for the PlayStation, but they definitely copied Nintendo. Now, under here, you have your Z button, which is like a trigger, and it works really well if you're playing GoldenEye like this. You have your trigger down here, and you aim with this, move with this. It's really definitely a cool controller, and you're not just like slipping all around and going, oh, you actually only use 2 of them at a time. So like for GoldenEye, for instance, you just use this, and for most games like Super Mario 64, you'd use this, so you can access all the main buttons and move whatever character with this, aim the camera with this, action buttons, and that's pretty much it, except for this. This is like a little bay for expansion module things, like the Rumble Pack and Transfer Pack, and the Tremor Pack. It would all plug in here, and you could also have memory cards that you would plug in there. So a variety of different things were able to be used here, and you can eject them with that. And one thing about the rumble in these old controllers, like this one especially, I've heard, I don't know because I haven't ever owned a rumble pack, but I've heard that it'll like really shake the controller, and it's not really puny like the Xbox 360's controller rumble, or the GameCube controller's rumble. It really rumbled. And here's the joystick has a little problem with it. Over the years, it could most of them actually have gotten really loose. As you can see, this one's tight. But let me give you an example of a loose one. Hello. Okay, so here is a loose Nintendo 64 controller. If you notice, obviously this controller is differently colored than the last one, and that's because the Nintendo 64 controllers and the console and the games, which are down there, you can't see them, came in a variety of colors. God knows how many colors for the console, and lots of different colors for the cartridges, like yellow, blue, black, colors like that for the cartridges. But if you can see what I mean, I'm just kind of barely moving this, and when I shake it around, well, it's not doing it today, but it's very loose, and the tight ones are definitely more comfortable. So basically that's all that I can think of. And I'm gonna refocus down there and set the controller where it used to be. That's basically all there is to say about the Nintendo 64 that I can think of at the moment. So thanks for watching. Leave any suggestions for more videos in the comments section, because this is the last console that I've reviewed. This is like all the consoles that I own except for the PlayStation 2, and I'm blank for ideas right now. So if you guys have any good ideas, please leave them in the comments section. So thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos. Bye.